Welcome to Making Herstory. This isn't polished success stories. This is the fire, the chaos, the gut punch truth of women who refuse to play small. The real, feral stories. The messy, bold, audacious stories that flip the table and set shit on fire. This is where we roar. It's Ashley Crabb. Buckle up, babe. We're making herstory. If you can see the visual on this, it's really fun because I'm doing it at night and it looks like I'm on some sort of like witness protection program show, but I'm trying this new thing where like I do what I say I'm gonna fucking do. And I told my podcast editor goddess Brooke that I would get her an episode by Thursday morning. And here I am doing it on Wednesday night to get it to her for Thursday morning. But hello, welcome to Late Night with Ashley Crabb. Maybe this should be a thing. We should also make some blooper reels. Anyways, okay, let's go. If you are the story, then you have to see the value in it. And most women don't just struggle to tell their story, they struggle to believe that it is worth being heard. In case we haven't met yet, it's Ashley Crabb. I'm the only story-driven experience curator who helps feral, audacious women turn their raw, unpolished stories into brands, events, movements that leave a legacy. We create transformation through truth, not through performance, polish, or perfection. Here we build businesses, work, and life with rooted fucking realness. And I am so glad to have you along for the ride. In last week's episode, I said something that I want to talk about today. You are the story. And I want to go deeper into that because just hearing that, just knowing that, I don't think is enough. Because if you are the story, then the real work that we have to do is learning to see the value in ourselves, to see the value in ourselves and our story and the legacy we are creating before anybody else does. Before we get applauses and recognition, we have to do that inner work and believe that we are worthy and valuable. That what we have inside of us is already worthy and valuable. And I've heard so many people say this in different ways, I guess, but you know, I don't really have a story. I don't really have a story. Or, you know, why would anyone want to hear my story? Or what's so special about my story, you know? And literally like that cannot be true. That I don't have a story statement cannot be true because you have lived a life up until this point. You have lived, you have experienced, you have been through shit, good shit, bad shit. Like you have been shaped by moments, by choices that changed you. Not necessarily the moments that, you know, almost broke you. Not necessarily your hardest moments, all of your moments, right? Because when we say I don't have a story, what we're actually saying is my story isn't valuable. What I have been through and experienced is not valuable. It's not impressive enough. It's not worthy of being heard. I'm afraid of how people will see me if I tell it honestly, if I show up in my audacious, rooted feralness, right? And that fear of being afraid to show up as who you are, that is that real roadblock of the I don't have a story statement. And we have to kick that to the curb, right? I want to say something clearly, and this is kind of like two sides to a coin, nuances, life, right? Like this concept is very big, I think, but like trauma is not the entry fee for telling a story. Yes, traumatic stories matter. Yes, heavy stories deserve space. Yes, many of us have had traumatic, heavy moments in our lives, in our stories, right? But I think sometimes we fixate on those things, right? And we think that, one, we have to share all of our trauma. We have to share all of our heavy moments. Like, we have to expose all of that. And I realize I'm sitting here telling you that you have to show up in your truth, but there are parts of your stories, one, that you don't have to share. And two, traumatic stories aren't the only stories we want to hear. Heavy stories are not the only stories we want to hear. Like, and if you do, I think you're in the wrong place, because I don't want to hear that. Like, yes, I have been through traumatic shit. Yes, I have had very heavy shit in my story, but like, that's not where I come from telling my story, right? Like, the ordinary moments in life, the quiet pivots in life, the subtle identity shifts that we have in life, seasons that didn't necessarily explode, but where we still changed. Like, humans do not only connect through catastrophe. And I think that we also need to fucking stop connecting over catastrophe. So that's the real statement that I want to make here. Like, I think so much has been focused on the catastrophe, the trauma, the super heavy darkness. And while that deserves light, we connect on things so much more positively than that. We connect on things through recognition of being human beings. We connect through stories of love and understanding and being seen. And that doesn't mean that we can't share our pivots that we had to make in hard times, but like, you don't have to have a traumatic story to have a story. That was a long ramble, guys. Thanks for sticking with me on that one. But like, I think too, like, we sometimes have started to feel like authority sits in this place of being an expert of going through shit. And I don't think all of us want an expert anymore. Like, we want someone with experience. We want someone who is going through and has been through what we've been through and has come out on the other side. But like, am I an expert at anything in life? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Maybe I shouldn't say that as an entrepreneurial businesswoman on my podcast, but like, I am living life every single day, and I'm continuing to learn and grow in the things that I have experience in the things that I have knowledge in the things that I know I am meant here to do. But like, because I feel like there's always more to understand and gain and explore and talk about and think about, like, I don't know if I would consider myself an expert, because I always want to be able to continue to transform, and not in a way that isn't content, but like, we're ever evolving, right? And so apparently, podcast at night, late night with Ashley Crabb, I go on tangents. But what I really want to just kind of drive home is that like, we want someone whose story makes us feel seen. We want someone whose story we resonate with. We want someone whose lived experiences mirrors something within us. That's why embarrassing stories can work. That's why unfinished stories can work. That's why stories without a pretty bow on them land, because we are human, because we connect with the moments where we are understood. And authority and, expertise don't come from perfection. They don't come from polishing. They come from truth. They come from an ever evolving truth that is your story. So being a story, being a legacy that is being written, you have different chapters. So yes, some chapters are going to be more traumatic than others. Yes, some chapters are going to be harder. Some chapters are going to be easier, lighter, more ordinary, whatever, right? And so And so really, this is an ordinary moment in my life that I want to point out to you. I kept thinking that like my story had to be something more than it was, right? And when I finally realized that it doesn't have to be anything but my everyday life, it made telling my story so much easier. It made recognizing the value in my story so much easier because I am a human being just like you, going through life, going through ordinary moments and extraordinary moments, these wonderful, joyful, uplifting moments, and these really fucking hard moments, right? And just that one idea that my story as is valuable. My story doesn't have to be a story of expertise. That freed me. Stop thinking that you have to be perfect to have a worthy story. You don't. And so I guess I'm sharing this all with you today because that was like this whole realization, because I went through this whole realization myself, was just really freeing for me in the way that I show up as myself and the way that I show up in telling my story. Because I feel like for so long, I thought, one, I had to tell always the deepest, darkest, most traumatic parts of my story. And while I am working on being more of an open book, the way that I tell that is my choice, right? And recognizing that I get to share the ordinary moments of my life, that I get to share just the normalcy of being human, and recognize that all of those moments are really what make an exceptional story, freed me, because it made me realize that the fear here is that we're actually not living a life worth sharing. And so when you are so focused on trying to create a story that is perfect, that is, meeting someone else's standard for whatever bullshit reason there is, like that's where so much of that fear comes from. That's where so much of that questioning your validity and worth come from. Just go live your fucking life. Live your ordinary, magnificent, wonderful, magical, up and down, all around life, and just start seeing the value in it, because it doesn't have to be cinematic and sensational for it to be significant. And so we're going to try something new. Like, I'm going to tell you what I want you to do this week to start showing up more for yourself and to better appreciate the story that you're living so that you can share it with others. Okay? Start noticing the ordinary things in your day. Write it down. Talk about it. Like, talk about the ordinary moments that you're living, because when you start doing that, when you start writing about it and talking about it, you're going to start having conversations. You're going to start having moments of reflection about how you feel, about, what made you resonate with someone, or what made you stop and like resonate with your freaking self. Like, you're not going to start focusing on how impressive it is. You're going to start recognizing how great your story is now. Like, you're going to start recognizing how great your life is. And, if you need to carry around a notebook, voice note yourself, tell your story out loud to real humans. Like, stop hoarding your experiences and your stories in your head and not reliving them. Like, they're not allowed to matter. Like, everything you're living right now, the legacy you're creating, it matters now. And so let's try to thus reframe some of this fear that we're having. When you start to show up and embody the woman and the human being that you were truly put on this earth to be, when you start emanating your true purpose and you start radiating your true light, yes, people will see you differently. People will see you differently. That's not danger though. That is the whole point, right? Because your story is going to reveal to you people who were meant to be a part of it and people who were not meant to be a part of it. Your story is going to reveal how you see yourself. And I think that is almost scarier sometimes than the fear we have of how other people will see us. But don't be afraid of yourself, baby. I got you. I'm in this with you. If you are the story, then you must start seeing the value in yourself, in your story. Not when it's perfect, not when it's edited and polished, not when someone else approved it. Now, right now. Your story is your identity. Your story is you. Love it. Embrace it. Recognize it as your leadership. Recognize it as your freaking legacy. And make this an ordinary moment where you stop playing small. Stop pretending you are too small to share your story with all of us. Thank you for making it through this late night recording of Making Her Story with Ashley Crabb. But if this resonates with you, go ahead and download the Tell Your Story Fire Starter. It's my freebie. You're going to start pulling the threads of your story out. You're going to start feeling confident in showing up in it. It's going to start giving you clarity, babe. Book a 30-minute vibe check with me. Let's jump on a call. Let's chat it out one-on-one. See what you're working on, what you're building, what is asking to be said within your story. And this podcast really is for you. So what stories do you want to hear? Message me on Instagram, comment here on the podcast. I want to know what stories you want to hear more of. If you want to share your story, get in touch with me. Let's get you on the podcast and start sharing your story. And as always, just thank you for being here and being along for the ride. I will catch you next week. You've been listening to Making Her Story. Remember, your story isn't optional. It's your fire, your power, and the heartbeat of every space you build. So take up space, tell it raw, and keep building the kind of legacy that can't be ignored. It's Ashley Crabb, and I'll be back with more bold, brave, feral stories soon. And if you want to stay feral with me, hit subscribe, share this with your sisters, and let's make her story louder together.